And we are now recording.
Okay, so this is the January 29th, 2025 meeting of the Amherst Energy and Climate Action Committee, which was organized to guide the town in meeting its climate mitigation and resilience goals. Those goals and the plan for getting there are adopted from the CARP, the Climate Action Adaptation and Resilience Plan, which was accepted by the town council in 2021. With 2016 as its base year, CARP calls for a 25% reduction in carbon emissions by 2025, 50% by 2030, and neutrality by 2050. So this committee has two functions. One is to advise the town council and recommend or propose policies or actions that will help us meet those goals. And the other is to promote a just, equitable, and speedy climate response through outreach and engagement of town and local stakeholders. And with that, we will first find someone to do the minutes today. So whose turn is it today?
I think it might be Steve's turn, but I actually would like to request that I do it because I have not done it in a while and I'm going to miss the next meeting. So if Steve does it, then I will miss again.
Okay, go ahead,
Let's
Laura.
with Steve.
Laura will, thank you for volunteering to take.
Yeah, thank you, Laura.
So with that, we can go on to reviewing the minutes from 115. So I did have a couple of comments. I was just reading them beforehand. I'll share them right now. I'll share the minutes if I can find the share button. ECAC minutes, share. All right, and now I got to put you guys back where I can see you. Good. Okay, so these are the minutes from last time. Usually we use last names everywhere, so I was going to say we should probably change all these to last names. I always record first names too, but then I change them at some point as I edit a little bit. So those all need to get changed. And the only thing I saw that I wanted to ask be changed other than just names is Lori asks how this program differs from existing Mass Save. It wasn't really how it differs. It was specifically about the money, if there was additional money. So, because I know how it differs in general. But so Lori asks how the incentives provided to residents differ from the existing Mass Save program. That was the question. Otherwise, I didn't see anything. Can you all see this well enough? Make it a little bigger. I think Conduit Tech actually has a space there, but it doesn't matter that much. It depends if you're looking at their website or their name of their company. Are we okay here? Staff updates. I don't know why this is all in bold. It makes it a little hard to read. Maybe we could just do.
It's just a formatting thing, Lori. I can change that. I'll have to change it on my end. So
yeah. Okay. If there's no further changes, I'll stop sharing. Do we have a move to accept as they are? Or do you still want to look a little more?
I'll move to accept.
I'll second
Lori,
that.
can you stop sharing, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was just waiting for the move.
That's okay. Drucker and Roof?
Yes.
Okay. And in no particular order, Allison?
Yes.
Roof?
Yes.
Goldner?
Yes.
Leinung?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
And Drucker?
Yes.
Okay, minutes are approved.
Okay, with the changes.
Yeah, as amended.
Right, as amended. Okay, let me get rid of that. And I can send you that later.
Yeah, I've made notes. I think
Notes,
I've got
okay.
it. So.
All right. Okay, so the first thing on the agenda for today, before we even do public comment is to elect a vice chair. So I really got, I was vice chair for a year or more, I don't even remember, before becoming chair, and it wasn't a lot of work, but it was just to have some continuity when the chair was absent, and it also let me learn the ropes a little bit so that when I did become chair, it was easier. You don't have to become chair to be vice chair, but it's nice if I'm not here, we know who's going to be chairing the meeting. So we really could use, and there's also, you could join Stephanie and I. Stephanie and I meet every other week. The week in between ECAC, we meet briefly to talk about the agenda and stuff like that. I don't think I did those. I may have joined one of those maybe when I was vice chair, because I knew I had to chair the meeting the following week or something like that. So, but a vice chair could do that. Do we have any nominations for vice chair? It's not a lot of work unless you become chair. Then it's a little more work. It's not that much, honestly, being chair. Stephanie does all the work.
Well, that's not true. That is absolutely not true.
It is mostly true. I mean, I meet with you once a week and once every other week, and we spend a half hour talking and figuring out what's going to, working on the agenda, but you prepare most of it. And
But I think you do, I would say that, the work of the chair and the vice chairs, that you do a lot of other, your initiatives and things that you want to pull together, you do behind the scenes, and the annual report, there are certain things,
yeah, the annual report
targets
is a
that you
bit
do
of,
have to meet.
yeah, the
So,
annual report is a bit of work.
yeah, and that's typically falls on the chair, but everyone can contribute to that.
And
I
that's-
will say that people can nominate themselves as well. You don't have to nominate someone else.
Right.
Anyone is
Nominate yourself.
interested in doing it, you can,
Volunteer.
yes.
We'll be so happy. Do I need to do some more arm twisting behind the scenes? Maybe we'll give it another minute of uncomfortable silence. And then I'll come back to it again next week after privately twisting arms, something the chair can do.
I mean, the main responsibility really is just covering when Lori is not able to attend a meeting.
Right.
You would chair a meeting. But otherwise, Lori really does the lion's share, but maybe at times she might want to work with you to delegate some task, but typically I feel like the lion's share has often always fallen to the chair, as Laura can attest.
Yeah. All right, so what I will do is I will talk to people. I hope someone will reach out to me, but if you don't, I'll reach out to especially some of our newer members, see if anybody is interested in serving as vice chair. I started as vice chair pretty early on after I joined ECAC. So I don't regret it. It was worthwhile. I actually really enjoyed this, serving on this committee, because stuff gets done and you get to see it happen, and that doesn't happen in other parts of my life. So you get to see things actually change. So that's sort of nice. But all right, we'll go on from there and put that on the agenda again for next time.
Yeah.
And we'll continue putting it on the agenda until we identify someone. But I'll reach out to folks, and I hope you'll reach out to me. All right, public comment. Do we have any members of the public?
No, we do not.
Okay, in that case, Tony's not here today.
So I do have, you'll have to give me a second. I do have a few very minor updates from him.
Okay.
So if you want to wait until it's his item on the agenda.
Go ahead.
Okay, just give me 1 second. Okay, Tony has said There are no transportation updates tonight, so we can just continue with that one.
Right.
And the ECAC Elevate event, it's been changed to a one-day event for 4 hours, primarily to accommodate schedules. And he asked that folks please fill out the when to meet if anyone is interested in helping
Yep.
out or doing something for that event.
Yeah, please do. I think Tony sent that to everyone, or you sent it to everyone through from
Mhm.
Tony, Stephanie. Please do fill that out. That's useful. I'm pretty sure I went in there and filled it out, but if you see that I didn't, Stephanie, let me know, or if Tony sees that I didn't. I'm pretty sure I did it right away.
Yep.
But I get a lot of those. So,
And now that it's 4 hours, I think there, anything that anyone would volunteer to do is going to be, very concise and shorter,
Right.
amount of time.
yep. Yeah. Okay, so next thing on the agenda is residential heat pump initiative, community coaching, engagement, and support. Do we have anything more on any reactions to Marina's this talk last week, or anything more on the local plan? Maybe we can get some updates on that first. I have other stuff that I could talk about in regards to the regional program that Eric Broadbent and others are putting together, but that could also wait till ECAC member updates. Maybe we should talk about it all here, since Stephanie, if you have anything more about the local program.
Sure, I'm just, the information for the plan was finalized. I've just been reviewing that, so I'm not quite done with that yet, but, the idea is that the flyer will go out probably starting within the next day or two, or early next week. The flyer will start going out to folks, and be posted for interest in the program and announcing the program. There'll be a press release that should go out next week as well. The program won't officially start until April, though, for the whole community. So, that's kind of that's the only real update I have since her presentation, last week, and I have not received any comments or feedback from anybody.
Okay. All right, so let me fill you in on what else is going on in the region. And I know at least one ECAC member did actually sign up for the Heat Smart coaching thing. So that's that we might have another coach in the area sometime soon. So Eric and I was at the local energy advocates meeting last week, 21st, I guess. And Eric and company who are organizing a Northampton, it was originally going to be a Northampton and Beyond, they called it, coaching program. It was sort of funny. There was a bit of a disconnect. They thought they were putting together a Northampton program because they thought that's what LEA was willing to fund on Mass Energize. So the idea is that these guys want to put together a coaching program. They want to use this Mass Energize website because it's a way to organize the program and connect people who want coaching with coaches. The Mass Energize websites go up in price depending on the size of your community. So there was a bit of a disconnect, I think, where the group putting together the coaching program thought LEA was only willing to spend enough for Northampton, but it's not completely clear, and they might want to put something together for a larger area. So they gave a nice presentation on why coaching is important and how it fits into Massachusetts goals, and what coaches do. I'm just going through some of my notes here and some of their slides that I don't want to share because they're not done with it yet. But I have, since I was at the meeting, I have access to the stuff. So again, they're focusing on heat pumps for homes, but eventually maybe doing more in the way of coaching for not just heat pumps, but for other things. The initial is going to be mostly about heat pumps. They were thinking of a soft launch with limited outreach to the public, contacting residents in target homes for their first set of clients. And they were trying to get folks interested in the Heat Smart Alliance training, which is oversubscribed by a lot. So Heat Smart Alliance is running they run great trainings, and Eric Broadbent is actually helping run it this time. The training is in February, March. There were 3 people in the area already signed up, 6 already trained. and at least one more, at least a few more since then. At least one more. So, and I think they'll get in because hopefully they're trying to focus it, if there's a group of people from an area where they want to start a program, they have a reason to take more than one person from that area, right? So even though they're oversubscribed by about a factor of 2, they have like 60 people signed up and they only have room for 30 or something like that. Hopefully all the local folks will get in. And their big question is they need a program coordinator. So they were thinking that initially the program coordinator would be a volunteer, and ideally it would be somebody who would be municipally supported. And that got into a discussion of whether or not Valley Green Energy could support something like this. And then they talked about the Heat Smart Alliance coaching model and how that works. And I think that about covers it. So they're planning on starting also around April, soft launch around April with newly trained coaches assigned to target clients using the Mass Energize intake form. That was their plan. So it looks very similar to the timescale for the local heat pump program, which is of course quite different because it comes with additional incentives and a lot of other things that this is just a coaching program. But one could imagine down the line somewhere these two things, after the CET contract ends, having some sort of website where anybody who wants coaching can go. And one might imagine it pointing to this page eventually. And I think that about covers it. So it's exciting that there's all this is all starting to happen in this area, which is nice. I don't think I have anything else on that. I guess the big question is, what else can ECAC do to help engage, right? To help bring people into the, other than setting up I'm looking forward to setting up the Heat Pump Help 5 cents booth again at Sustainability Festival this year. And there might even be more than one ECAC member who's a heat pump coach who could sit at it. If there's anything else we can do. Otherwise, I guess we go on to the next agenda item. So Laura, review of draft letter regarding the UMass climate plan. I have some updates on that as well. But do you have a letter?
Yes, I do have a letter. I shared it with folks last week. I did not receive any comments on it. So,
Laura, I have to apologize. This last week, everything got away. I mean, with all the stuff that was going on, I completely spaced it.
yeah. So I think, if folks want to take another day or so to take a look.
Yeah.
But from my end, it's done unless I get comments. So, Lori,
Okay.
you can also take it and we can submit it.
Yeah. Okay, let me have a now I gotta find it. I'm sorry. That came from you, Laura, or through Stephanie?
Stephanie forwarded my email, I believe, on the 21st.
I got a link from Stephanie on the
16th.
16th of January.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I got that one. Okay, good.
With the it's a shared in Google Drive.
I can give a little bit of update. All right, so I apologize for not. I will send you comments, Laura, and then if I have any. I think I looked at it last time and it looked fine to me, but I haven't actually carefully read it, so I will do that immediately after this meeting.
Did
I-
you want to share that and provide comments now?
I need to sit and read it carefully. We did that
Yeah,
last
we
week.
did it last time at the last meeting, so I think
Yeah.
it's really just people, if people want to wordsmith it, or if anyone has any substantive comments, they can of course share those and we can talk about them next time, but.
Yeah, I just think we should have the discussion. It shouldn't just be you sending comments to Laura. We should
Okay. All right,
You know,
so you want to
yeah,
do
just
this one more
comment.
time? Well,
No, I don't want to do that. Sorry, Stephanie. Can you?
No,
I
it's
think,
fine.
I think we can put it on the agenda next
For
time.
next
but I
time.
don't think it makes sense to talk through it in person,
Today.
right?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I wasn't suggesting today. I just want to make sure that we have a public process. That's all.
But if you're not going to be here next time, I think you said that,
I'm-
right?
So from my perspective, I have addressed comments from last meeting.
Okay,
So I don't think I need to be there. I
okay,
think,
so we'll discuss it in your absence, and we'll, if there's anything we need to finalize, we'll send you comments, but we'll also discuss it at the meeting, and that should be fine. We can send you comments separately offline, and then post it at the meeting, approve it, and it can be sent at that point.
yeah,
Alright.
I think that makes sense.
Okay,
I do have one general question about it. Do we know what sort of particulate pollution or other pollution besides greenhouse gas emissions might be coming from this biodiesel?
all we know is that it passed the stack test to get a permit to be burned in one of the boilers. So it's probably not worse than whatever regular diesel is. It's not biodiesel, remember, it's renewable diesel, which is refined the same way diesel is. But there are renewable diesel products, at least one out there that did not pass the stack test.
I guess I'd be curious if we knew how it compares with what they're currently using, which is natural gas, in terms of particulates, mercury, sulfur,
We can,
those
so
sorts
that's
of pollutants.
yeah, that's something I can ask at UMass. I won't get an answer.
Well, I think we can
Um,
put it, so we do have a section here that's focused on, we do note that it completed the test burn, and the current question is how appropriate is it to scale? But I think we could also ask a question of what were how do the emissions compare to current?
I wonder if the permit says anything about that. I'm just gonna look it up real quick.
I think that this could be a question that we encourage the town to
Yeah.
ask to UMass. It doesn't have to be a question that we answer.
Right,
Emissions can be used in two ways: the greenhouse gas emissions, as well as other kinds of emissions like particulates that cause health problems. So I
Okay.
just wanted to raise that as a concern, the health related emissions, not just the greenhouse gas related emissions.
yeah. Okay, so one thing I have here, remember there's two separate issues here. One is this winter, UMass is already burning 100,000 gallons of renewable diesel in one of their boilers. And it's a boiler that is designed to burn either diesel or methane, so it burns both. And according to this permit, Mass DEP has determined that this change can be incorporated, this change meaning the burning of renewable diesel, since there is no increase in facility emissions, that this change is in conformance with current air pollution control engineering practices and is in compliance with the administrative amendment regulations contained in, and it gives a section 310 CMR, blah, blah, blah. So they gave approval based on that it doesn't increase emissions. There's a description of the facility and the application. Oh, they give it. Can I share this? I can share this and then we can put it in the packet if you'd like. This is the permit here. Share. Chrome, share. Okay, you should be able to see this now, correct? This is from the, whoops, sorry. I'm trying to grab
Page
it, make it
3.
bigger. Yeah, this is the permit. I'm going to make it a little bigger. Sorry, it's, oh, I can't make it bigger that way. Hang on a minute. Should be able to make it bigger. No. Where's the make it bigger thing? I think I have to download it and share it if I'm going to make it bigger. It's not letting me. Oh, there it is. Got it. Window width. Okay, there we go. So this is in the permit on page 3. What they're finding for. Oh, they have natural gas on here too.
Yeah.
natural gas, ULSD, what is that?
Ultra low,
Oh.
low sulfur diesel.
Diesel, which is probably what they've been using. Combination ULSD and natural gas, and the worst case scenario, that's is shown below. The boiler's potential to, so that's ULSD, but where does is it renewable diesel considered ULSD? I guess since it's not, I'm guessing that it, oh, meets, yeah, the emissions from the boiler using only ULSD and renewable fuels meeting that criteria too. So this gets included in here. So it is the same, I think, as the low sulfur diesel they usually use. I think that's what they're trying to say here.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think to Steve's point, like clearly this has more NOx and PM
Yeah,
Then-
yeah, particulate.
Yeah,
Not-
yeah, than burning natural gas for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like 10 a lot more.
Yeah.
So that's the bigger problem. So the bigger problem, I'll stop the share. I can put this in the packet if you'd like. This is just the permit that UMass got. The bigger problem here is that they want to transition the cogeneration plant. And I wrote to DEP and asked them if they had applied for a permit to do that, because that's a bigger deal. That's changing a cogeneration plant that uses only natural gas, that was designed to use natural gas. Changing it over is not a small thing. It's expensive, but not $2 billion to put in geothermal everywhere and to change the steam to low temperature hot water. But it's expensive and it's not easily reversible, according to friends of mine who are in the energy business. They can make it so that it's reversible, but then that would be even more expensive, right? So the change to renewable diesel on the cogeneration plant is what they propose, and that is a bigger problem. I wrote to DEP to see if they have applied for a permit to do that, and the answer I got back hours later, it was great, like an hour later, was no, they have no record of them applying to do that. So they haven't applied to do it yet, which is good. And I think I'm going to stay on top of that and make sure that DEP knows we object to this, because they got this permit without any sort of public hearing or advance notice or okey doke from anybody, although using renewable diesel in one of the boilers was actually in the UMass climate plan. So what they've done so far is not horribly objectionable, except for the fact that they're not using the renewable diesel they were supposed to use, which was local and the origins were traceable, and they could document what the emission cycle, what the emission life cycle emissions look like. In this case, they're using a product that's coming from Singapore, and they have no idea, and there's every possibility that it's considerably worse than just burning fossil fuel. That's not unlikely. But we don't know because they haven't done any due diligence. They did try using the local product, but the local product did not pass the stack test, is what I have been told. So in other words, it was dirty. Whatever they were doing to refine it wasn't working. So that's how we got where we are at any rate. So, and that's the issue. You know, we don't want them. I did hear back from the chancellor. We wrote the chancellor a letter. We heard back. We did not get any answers to any of our questions. We also did not get any response to our concerns about renewable diesel. So there will probably be a FOIA, a Freedom of Information Act request for information, since we can't seem to get it by just talking to them. That will probably be our next step. So that's the sort of things that I've been working on that made me totally forget about this letter. I've been working on that while dealing with
Lori, when you say we, who is the we that's working on this?
Yeah, it's an ad hoc group of faculty and students who are involved in student government or the Sunrise Movement. It's a slightly different group every time. There's probably about 30 now in the Google group. And it's just folks who are concerned. And one of the concerns we all have is that the publicity on this hasn't gotten out there yet. I did get contacted by Scott Mertzbacher from the Gazette, and I've been in contact with Dusty Christensen from the Shoestring. and also sent emails to Joe Comerford and Mindy Dome some time ago. So we're trying to get word out, but I think people are overwhelmed right now with crap. Excuse the French there, but yeah, nobody's paying attention. And that's my fear, that this will slip by because nobody's paying attention. So this group of faculty is trying to make sure that doesn't happen. Faculty and now students. There were about a dozen faculty and students who signed the letter, and about 50 who were CC'd, 75 who were CC'd. And of that, a handful have joined to continue this conversation and figure out what we can do from inside UMass. But I think the town knowing is important. I don't think, since they haven't applied for a permit, it's not urgent. It's not gonna, burst forth any second. But I do think that we need to get alerting the town and getting this letter out is important. And having the town respond and ask questions is important.
The number of students and faculty that have been raising questions, is that a significant number, or is that kind of a small number in terms of the overall population?
It's hard to tell. I mean, I haven't done, look, we're trying to figure out how to deal with this chancellor, right? We had a massive vote last fall that had no effect on a different topic, that had no effect on him at all. And that was something I also worked on. And we literally had, 2,000 faculty interested, hundreds who signed letters and who showed up at a meeting that was very badly run for hours and hours. So that was a mass effort and it got no response. None. So this time, I think a more focused group that has some expertise, that has a particular stake in this, are going to keep hammering on it and trying to get the word out. And then the extension, Dwayne is also working on this from a different angle. He works for the energy extension, so he's not going to be on the letter to the chancellor, but he is talking to the chancellor, I know. And Energy Transition Institute is talking to the chancellor in the same way. So we've been trying to let all the people who were on the original Climate Zero, the people who were CC'd were on the original Climate Mitigation Task Force. They are on the Chancellor's Sustainability Advisory Committee, which was supposedly got a chance to comment on this, but from what we hear, really didn't. So it's, we're trying to contact the people that the chancellor is in contact with and trying to put pressure on him from public sources, trying to get the newspapers involved, trying to get our, I think that the more different directions he gets this from, the more likely he is to respond. Yeah. Anything that makes the university look bad, that's what'll get his attention. Unfortunately, because his goal is to raise the stature of the university, right? So we need a lot of publicity, and we need people talking to him from all directions.
All right, well, that sounds like a great effort with you and others at UMass.
Yeah.
And I think our role here for ECAC is good. What we're doing here is sort of encouraging the town manager to raise some questions and providing the town manager with some information so that he can be a little bit more knowledgeable
Right.
as these questions get raised.
Yeah, and actually that little chart from the permit is pretty telling, right? Because that's what'll happen to all of the emissions, and it is the single biggest point emitter in the valley anywhere, I think, is that power plant. So,
Yeah, and I think that people can worry about greenhouse gas emissions, and that's some future impact on climate, blah blah blah. But the local impacts, human health impacts of the particulates and the NOxes and the SOxes,
right.
Those are significant. Those are real. Those are going to hurt people in town.
Yeah. I would be surprised if they could get a DEP permit. I mean, this is something that I hope people are working on at a different level, and that I sort of want to work on too after I retire. Somebody needs to be talking to DEP about how bad an idea it is to let power plants convert to renewable fuels like this, especially if they're burning methane to start with.
Yeah.
Which is, all around cleaner, a lot cleaner than diesel, and probably cleaner than most renewable diesels, a lot cleaner, unfortunately.
The in the PowerPoint that came from UMass, there was a picture of a report from Neste, the
Yeah.
source of the the renewable diesel. Is
Yeah,
that, do we
that
have
was-
access to that report?
yeah, it's not the report that wasn't from a report from Neste, the one where they say it's carbon neutral.
I think it's just a picture in that PowerPoint. So, is it more just a sales brochure?
It's
rather
a
than-
sale. They use the sales brochure.
Yeah, okay.
There is a page where they discuss their evaluation of the life cycle CO2 emission of these fuels.
Ah,
And they range from 25% of of fossil diesel to 50% or 49% or something like that of fossil diesel. So they're supposed to be, you know, or 40%. I think it's 25 to 40% of fossil diesel. That's what Neste claims, if you believe them, for some of their products, for the ones they make from waste, quote unquote, waste oil. And those are the same numbers that the state of California has adopted. California actually has regulations on renewable fuels, but they pretty much take the word of the companies that produce them. So as far as I can tell. So yeah, so in no way is anyone, except in their brochures where Neste also refers to them as carbon neutral, which is just false. If you look a little deeper on their website where they talk about the specific products, they give numbers for each product. And they're 25 to 40% of diesel. And remember, methane is already, I think it's 60 or 70% of diesel. I forget exactly. It's cleaner than diesel by quite a bit.
Yeah.
In CO2 alone. I'm not even talking about particulates. It also burns cleaner. But just for CO2, it's 60 or 70% of diesel. So when you talk about a 50% reduction, 40%, you know, a reduction of 60%, compared to regular diesel, you're talking about a smaller fraction compared to methane, right? It's not as, even if you believe Neste's numbers, it's not a great deal. So it you know, it's moderately better if you believe their numbers. And I, for one, do not, because anybody who tells me they're using waste oil is lying. There is no waste oil in the world anymore. And I don't know what waste oil means when you're paying for it. Waste oil is, you know, you going to your local restaurant and getting their fry oil and using it in your diesel truck, right? That's waste oil. And that just doesn't happen on a large scale. And what does happen is people sell oil and they sell it after its life. They've used it enough to get their money out of it, and then they sell it to make more money. You know, and then somebody has to plant more oil, has to generate more oil to replace that. So there's no such thing as waste oil in an industrial scale like this. All right. Should we move on?
I will look at the letter a little bit more closely. I've read it once through. I will look through in the next day or two to make any suggestions. I think it's overall a fairly sort of gentle letter, and I think that's appropriate as it's going to Paul,
Yeah,
not to UMass.
right.
And I see Laura's already making some changes in there, referring to the NOxes and SOxes and such, and asthma and that kind of thing. So that's good. But I will go ahead and look at that and provide some comments.
Okay.
And then I guess it sounds like we'll discuss it again next meeting.
Yeah, and I apologize because it's mostly my fault that I haven't had a chance to look at it. Just between everything else going on in the beginning of the semester, constant barrage.
Sorry, Lori, just a point of order, just to make sure that any comments you provide get discussed at the next meeting. So,
Right.
You know, if you provide anything, make sure that's what you discuss at the next meeting.
Right. Okay, back to our usual agenda, education and outreach. Do we have anyone have anything new? Pace, I'm not even going to go through them because I think there's probably not. Don, you have anything new?
I'm muted. I
Oh.
did attend that
Ah,
webinar
good.
on what was basically large scale investments in renewables and in climate forward projects. I'll give you the caveat. I mean, as I think I said before, where I went to college, Williams, has a winter study program, and various alumni come back and teach. And in this particular January, a woman who is in the investment and portfolio management team at the New York Green Bank came to offer the month-long course on basically large-scale financing of renewable projects. The caveat is an ungodly number of graduates from Williams, take jobs in investment banks or venture capital firms or hedge funds. So this was really geared toward, those sorts of, please, if you're going to do this, get yourself involved in organizations that finance green energy. So I can't say I learned a lot, although it was kind of, there was a focus on areas that I don't pay that much attention to, and I should, since at one point in time I represented the plant manager of a power plant here in the valley that was a natural gas power plant that was being investigated for violating its emissions and other issues. And so I ended up doing a lot of work at the, in connection with the grid. And this particular webinar I was on, this woman brought right to the front how the grid is really not built with renewables in mind. And so not only do we have an issue of how to develop more renewables, but what I consider to be a back office issue of how are we able to meet the demands as the demands change with renewables. So lots of investment in looking toward batteries, but as you all know, you don't store electricity very easily. And so we've got a grid that runs on, oh, wow, it's peak demand, start up. I mean, not so much coal anymore, but start up your natural gas plants because you can start them up and shut them down. So there was a whole lot of discussion in, sort of climate technology venture capital funds or organizations, and better software to manage the grid. But ultimately, there's going to have to be a lot of investment in storing electricity as we move toward more and more renewables. So I was kind of fascinated by that aspect and being brought back to the front because it's going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
You can produce all the renewables you want, but you're not producing them at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And it's a real long-term problem.
Yeah, and with that in mind, when we get to update, somebody remind me to talk about the First Light renewal, because that's come up again.
Don, did the conversation turn to nuclear power at all?
It did not,
No.
interestingly enough. Although I'm sure if there's money to be made, I'm sure some of these venture capital firms or hedge funds. I mean, I know for a fact hedge funds own a lot of power plants. A hedge fund owns the power plant that I was representing, the plant manager in the criminal investigation. They just do. Wherever they can make money,
Yeah.
they're in. But there was no discussion of nuclear, although I think it's inevitable we're going to have to deal with that, in a very real way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And I
agree.
think-
I think it's happening already with Amazon and others supporting and buying power from nuclear power plants. It's happening. Connecticut, I
Yep.
believe, is going to reconsider their restrictions against using nuclear power, and I think it's going to take off really fast. So-
And more than that, there are now these small modular reactors, right, that the nuclear power industry is selling as the hottest new thing. The thought is that they're basically the same technology as the old big reactors, with more safety features because they're a newer generation. But they are small. You can get a 10 megawatt plant or even a 5 megawatt, I think, nuclear power plant to run your little business off in the middle of Idaho. And it runs all the time and it runs more reliably than anything else. And you don't even have to be on the grid. You can just connect, you can have your own little grid, microgrids made out of these things. So it solves the grid problem, and it solves a lot of problems, unfortunately, for better or worse.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of interest in it because the Biden administration put money into it, and I would expect that venture capitalists are also now looking at it. The problem is it's a little bit, nuclear energy is still poisoned, right, by its horrible track record and its dangers, and the fact that it is very, very expensive because of all the safety measures that you need to take.
Right.
And to compare to putting up a wind farm, it's much, much, much more expensive. So it solves your grid problem, but it doesn't solve some other problems. So
Our
yeah,
new-
I'm also expecting it to be on the upturn. We'll see, but I don't think it's inevitable to.
Our new president considers wind farms a particular anathema.
Yes, I know.
Of all the renewables.
They're
So,
killing the whales or something like that.
but, or the birds or
Birds
whatever
and-
else. But no, I mean, and there's a lot of improvements that can be made in the grid. One thing I was absolutely, I mean, this was like 4 years ago that I was dealing with this, criminal investigation into the power plant in Agawam. And is so old school. You called up the grid on a phone, and or they called you, and it's like, so there's a whole lot that can be done with kind of software and algorithms and things that can really make that a lot more efficient. I mean, I was floored. You make a phone call, enough, but yeah.
Yeah.
So
If
Yeah.
you want to see something fun, the company, remember the company Enron?
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Enron is back sort of, and it's actually the logo and trademark was purchased by the group that did the Birds Aren't Real spoof a couple years ago. So you can go to enron.com and it's a spoof. And one of the spoofs that they offer is a really great one. It's called the Enron Egg. And it's a small modular nuclear reactor that you could put in your basement and it could power your house. And they do a really slick job of presenting it. So it's a great spoof.
Okay, Enron. I'll Google Enron.
Yeah, look, the Enron Egg is the
Enron
thing. Yeah.
egg.
I want to at least get the empty box for it to put out on the front of my house.
Oh man. I'm glad we can still laugh.
Yeah, that's important.
All right. I don't have anything else. We did heat pumps already. Tony's not here, and resilient schools, I have nothing more on. So unless anyone else has anything under education and outreach, advisory and support, do we have anything on the rental building efficiency bylaw or solar bylaw? Steve?
Nothing much. And unfortunately, my teaching schedule conflicts with the monthly calls for the sort of regional rental energy efficiency group. So I'm not going to be able to participate in those I think it's most Thursdays this spring. There might be a couple that I can. So I'll try to keep up with whatever updates come by, and so either somebody could take my place sitting in on that, or Stephanie, if are you still participating in that group?
Yeah, I was just about to raise my hand to say that I am part of that group. I wasn't able to make the last meeting, but I am part of that group still. So
Okay.
if somebody else doesn't attend, I will be able to give some updates.
Okay,
Great.
that's great. I appreciate you being able to give updates, and I'll try to attend when I can. As far as the draft solar bylaw, I don't think the CRC has discussed it. The meeting last night, the agenda at least indicated that it was all about the University Drive zoning district and nothing on the solar bylaw.
Mhm. Okay.
Do you know, Stephanie, if if they've got it on a schedule for upcoming
Well,
meetings?
it was tentatively on for last night, to be addressed at around 8 o'clock, but it
Oh.
never did. So I think until they complete the University Drive issue, I think it's just kind of on hold until that gets sorted. It's kind of a priority. They need to sort of come to a decision on that because that's also going before the planning board as well. So
Mhm.
Yep. That's reasonable. I'll try to keep track of that. And Stephanie, if you could give me little prompts if you know when it's coming up at a future meeting, that would be helpful.
sure, I hate to, I always feel guilty if I mention it to you and then you're sitting there and then it never comes up. So I hate to waste your time too, but I will, if I'm more confident that it's going to be discussed, I will let you know.
Okay. Yeah, if it shows up in the agenda, I'll try to look at the agendas, but if it shows up, I appreciate your reminders.
Sure.
Okay, I have, if that's it, without Tony here, I have one regional update. At some point, I want to look at carefully at the new Mass Save rules and maybe come back with a little report on how things have changed. But for right now, I just want to mention Joe Comerford's note of regional issue regarding the First Light Power's Turners Fall Dam and the Northfield Mountain Pump Storage Facility. So these are the pump storage facility and the dam are things that are really desperately needed right now. The storage facility is energy storage. They pump water up the hill and they let it down the hill and it runs turbines as it goes downhill. And so when there's excess energy, they use it to pump water uphill. And when they need energy, when the wind isn't blowing and the sun isn't shining, they let it flow through their power plant. So there is a renewal process going on and there's a public comment period right now. I can forward this email to the group, to you, Stephanie, for sending to the group, I think. They're looking for third and final public engagement event in the relicensing process, which is a hybrid public meeting and a written public comment period on the draft WQC, which is the water quality certification decision. That's apparently the big thing that's been holding this up, is the water quality certification. And there's a bunch of information on that here. The hybrid meeting isn't until February 19th. It's in Greenfield, but I understand that the comment periods are in some ways more important because the meeting is just a one-time thing, but the public comments come in for a month and it's written and they have it to take with them, right? It's on the record in a more substantial way, I think. So I'll send this to you. The comment period started this week and goes through February 24th at 5 p.m. And there's more information on where to go for information on that. So that's something that I would think folks in ECAC might want to comment on just as individuals. And if you know anyone else, you might want to forward it to them as well.
Can you say the name of the project or the?
It's the First Light Power, Turners Falls Dam and Northfield Mountain Pump Storage Facilities.
Thanks.
But First Light Power is probably sufficient. First Light Power license renewal. Relicensing, they call it. So I haven't been keeping very close track of that, except to occasionally throw a comment in. But I hope it's going smoothly. It's funny that Joe is sending updates on that because I'm not quite sure how I got on that list. So it makes me think that she might be worried about it and wants to let people know that this is going on. But I know there's been a lot of controversy around it. I think mostly around water quality. All right. And that's the only regional update I have, and that brings us to staff up. And if there's nothing else under advisory and support, brings us to staff updates.
Thanks, Lori. I don't really have much since our last meeting. Same initiatives are moving forward.
Sustainability.
So we do have the Sustainability Festival though, coming up. So that's in April, and I just did some outreach to last year's participants and already have several folks who have gotten back and said they want to participate. So I do think this is an important year because some of the things that we thought we would have last year, we actually do have this year. So Valley Bike is up and running. So I'm encouraging them to have a presence at the festival. So I'm hoping they will. And then also
Heat pumps.
the heat pump program will be launching, so they definitely have that on their agenda as something that they will table at. So, we'll have the heat pump program going. So, and you all, Lori, your heat pump coach booth, your, heat pump coach advice 5 cents booth is was quite popular last year, and I hit. So I think that'll be a great draw, especially if we advertise it, and put the word out about it again this year.
Free heat pump coaching.
Yeah, it's great. So I think I think we have some really solid things that we want to promote this year. I don't know how large, again, last year was half the size the event has been in the past. And I think now, because the farmers market is right on the common with us, that's totally fine. I don't think it needs to be a huge event with tons of vendors. I think what's more important is having sort of quality booths with information for residents of the town, like about, the heat pump program and the coaching and that sort of thing. I think are more, really more in the vein of what the event is supposed to be about. I mean, it's really an educational event is what it's primarily supposed to be.
And did that email that I got today go out to everybody, or is that just to me as chair? Did that go out to everyone on ECAC?
Which one?
Sustainability, the one about the schedule, not the schedule. I got an email about the Sustainability Festival.
Oh, that just goes out to the vendors. So that's the one that I just send out to all of the participants from prior year,
last-
just to say that, so just so you know, the date is April 26th.
That's what I wanted to make sure everybody knew. So the
Yeah,
date is
so
April
April
26th.
26th, please put it on your calendars. It would be great if everybody could be there at some point, even if you only put in an hour.
Yep.
It's a fun event, and it's a really great way to engage with people. So,
It's fun. It goes from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. and setup is like at 8. And we usually bring out a table and I have a banner. I have an ECAC banner somewhere. I think it's on top of my bookshelf back there. And we sit at the booth and talk to people about whatever they want to talk about. In different years, we've had different approaches to, do we want to have flyers? Do we want to have a specific theme? We want to, what are we going to talk to people about? And we can talk more about that as time gets closer. And we'll also put together a schedule. So please, if at all possible, try to reserve a little bit of time on April 26th to sit in the ECAC booth and talk to people at the Sustainability Festival. It really is a lot of fun.
Also, those of you who are engaged with students, have access to students, always love it if student groups have booth space, have a booth and sort of, can do some engagement around the work that they do. That would be helpful. So please encourage any groups that you are in contact with to get in touch with me. And it's free booth space. It's a fun day. They get to really engage with the community in ways that they don't typically, if they're on campus, they don't have the kind of exposure to the broader Amherst community. So it's great to have them have this opportunity to do that. And also, we do have that demonstration area. So if there's something that you know of, or again, if there are students who have some kind of a demonstration that they want to do. In the past, we've done agricultural practices, we've done things like solar oven demonstrations. There've been all kinds of groups. I mean, we've also had folks who taught people how to juggle, which was a huge success, actually. So, it doesn't have to be just, necessarily specifically related to to the work that we're doing, but even something
Yeah.
that's kind of fun for the community would be great. So
Was
again,
there
just
an,
your thinking caps, just let people know that
was there an induction hot plate set up last year?
I don't remember if there was or if there was supposed to be and it didn't happen. I don't remember. Some students I thought were gonna do,
Something
some high
like that.
school students were gonna do something.
If they don't, if nobody else does that, I now have an induction hot plate, so I can bring it and plug it in and make people tea on it or something like that. People can try that.
You could do that. I mean, you could do that at the, have that at the booth too. It doesn't
Yeah,
have to
right.
be a
That's
demo.
that's what I mean. Yeah, I can be right at the booth.
Yeah.
Did Sunrise UMass participate? Do they usually participate?
I feel like they did last time.
Because I can reach out to those folks now since I'm now
Yeah.
in contact with them.
I think they did, but though, yeah, we'd love to have them back. Or if they didn't, we'd love to have them. It does conflict with, I think, I don't know if it will this year. Sometimes it conflicts with what's going on at UMass, so sometimes falls on the same day.
As something else. Let's see if I have anything on my calendar. I don't think so. Nothing that I know of. Doesn't mean there's not. All right. That, let's see. Items for the next agenda. We're gonna finish up with the letter. I think we can take the item 5 off, the discussion of the heat pump program. We can do that as part of the heat pump program back in the education and outreach again, I think. Because that can move back to the background at this point, I think. We're still gonna try to elect a vice chair. Or get a volunteer. And I don't know that I have anything else. Anyone else have anything for the agenda?
Do you want to keep the Elevate event on?
Yes, yes, because hopefully Tony will be here next time and we can talk more about that.
And Laura's letter?
And Laura's letter, yeah, we'll finish that up, even if Laura's not here, so you can put my name under that too. We'll be sure to discuss it. But it's okay for us to send our comments to Laura as long as we show the letter next time and talk about what has changed.
And make sure that, yeah, you can see the comments.
You can see the comments, okay. So we comment directly on the letter.
I mean, I
Yeah.
know there's technically some issues, but even for doing that, but as long as we share it at the next meeting and we don't have a discussion, I think it's
Right.
okay.
Okay, so no discussing the comments while we're making the comments. It's just
Correct.
make your comment and be gone.
And then, right, and then we can display it and discuss them at the next meeting.
Right. Sounds good.
If it's is it okay for me to address the comment and leave the comment there? So if it's like an editorial comment, I could make the change.
I
but
think
leave
it's okay for you
think
to
it-
make changes, right?
You can, yeah, I mean, ideally, that would all happen at a meeting, but I think it's okay if you make note that you're making the change somehow, like highlight it, make note, and then it can be discussed at the meeting, and then final decisions can be made about those edits.
Right, because if it weren't a shared document, it would be okay for us to just email Laura with our input, right?
Right, it's the fact that you shouldn't all be sharing, you should not be using Google Docs.
So maybe we shouldn't, maybe we should just don't comment, make it just viewable, Laura, and we'll send you comments separately. Is that okay?
Well, I think because she won't be at the next meeting, I think if you do what we suggested, which was as long as it's all evident.
All right.
You know, you made a change, she edited it, and then at the
Okay.
next meeting, you all can decide if the edits that were made are okay,
All right,
and decide if the letter, how you want to finalize the letter.
right, right.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, good. So if there's nothing else, do we have a move to adjourn? Move in a second and a,
Did we already, is there no public, right?
no public, yeah. All right, then. See you all in 2 weeks.
Hang in there, everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hang
You
in
all.
there. That's right.
Good night.
Bye.